Hey guys, Mark Kwok here. Last week I talked about 5 types of watches that you would regret owning, and I promised that I'd have a second video to this, which is 5 types of watches that you won't regret owning. Watches that you absolutely will love for the rest of your life if you choose correctly. So let me go through them right now. So just for context, I've been collecting watches for a while. I have a certain type of philosophy around this. I want to keep my collection small, and not everyone has the same types of philosophies around collecting, but let me give you a couple of just tips that really worked for me and that really set the tone for why I kept certain watches but not others. The first type of watch I would not regret owning is a no compromise watch. All right, that's a pretty exhaustive term. What does that mean, no compromise? Well, I would say that when you're searching for watches, both new and pre-owned and vintage as well, there are gonna be compromises here and there, right? So if you want something that's a little cheaper, maybe you compromise on condition. My suggestion is be patient, find a watch that you are not compromising in. Let me give you a couple examples. So some people, myself included, care a lot, like way too much, in fact, more than we probably should, about box and papers. What that means is that it needs to be a full set, kind of like if you were to buy it from a retailer back then. So let's say I'm purchasing an older 90s watch. I wanna get everything that came with it. The box itself, the booklets, if there's any leather portfolio, if it's accessories, for instance, pushers on like an annual calendar or like a perpetual calendar. And so I know that if I purchase a watch that doesn't have that, just in my own psychology, I'll be sort of, I compromised on that piece, I wish I had them, and that ruins the experience of owning the watch. For others, more importantly than any of this is condition. And sometimes they don't want that case that's been polished like crazy, or the dial that's been replaced, or a service part that's in there that doesn't seem accurate to the time of when it was actually brand new. Figure out what it is that's most important to you, and whether that's originality, whether that's full set, whether that's condition and polish, like not being polished, etc. And make sure you don't compromise on that. Because the moment that you do compromise on that, you're just gonna be thinking about that, which is, I mean, this stuff is like such a emotional process that it's so ridiculous to have this cloud around that emotional process because you wanted to save a buck or two. The number 2 type of watch that you won't regret is a watch that you painstakingly researched and was actually patient for. A lot of people buy on impulse. Maybe because their Rolex AD said, hey, you gotta buy this watch. It's here just for you, and if you pass, someone else is gonna get it and you won't get that offer again for another 3 years. If you're lucky, those watches will stick and you'll love them and so on, and God bless folks that's the case. For most of us that are very serious about collecting, you want kind of the watch that you want. And unfortunately, if you're doing it with a lot of haste or just very quickly, you're probably not gonna be ending up with the watch that you love and wanted for a long time. I'll give you an example of this. So this is a watch that I've lusted after for a very long time. Some of you guys may have noticed this on my wrist from a previous video, but it's an older Aquanaut from Patek Philippe. It's a 5065A. I started to be interested in this watch, like asking dealers about it, in 2019. I purchased this watch in 2024. So that means that I went 5 years of massive amounts of research and just knew everything about it, like when the lume pots changed, what it came with in the box, exactly the different iterations that happened over time. If you've painstakingly researched the reference, if you've spent a bunch of time being patient, waiting for the right one to show up, you will undoubtedly be less regretful about that purchase than if you just willy-nilly went after it. I know it's tough to be patient, particularly around like watches that are fluctuating in price a lot. I mean, sometimes like you feel like you need to hurry up and purchase it or else it's just gonna go up in value. But I tell you, if you've done the research and you waited the long game, you're gonna be way happier about that purchase. Number 3 watch that you won't regret purchasing is one that's actually comfortable. Dude, this thing is on your wrist and you probably want this thing on your wrist often. And nothing's worse than if it is uncomfortable on the wrist. This can come in many forms. I talked about it last video, but you don't want a watch that's too big, right? That's an obvious one. It's like hanging off and so on. But there's a lot more factors to comfort than just size. Every single time you take off the watch, are there hairs coming out from your arm hair because the bracelet doesn't really fit well with, those links have like a pull to them. Maybe it's the fact that it's shaped a little bit weird for the way that your wrist is shaped, so it sits like awkwardly on your wrist at all times. Maybe it's too heavy. Like some people don't really like precious metal watches like white gold or yellow gold or platinum because they have too much heft and then you become fatigued. I tell you, if it's not comfortable, it's not gonna stay in your collection very long. All right, the next type of watch you won't regret is the one that actually fits your lifestyle. There are people that are in construction jobs, there are people that are in the water all the time, there are people that are in office jobs. Each of those types of people, where they spend most of their time, it's gonna be different. If your most prized watch, the one that you really like and you've lusted after, is a dainty gold dress watch, I really hope that you have a job that doesn't require you to always be constructing things with your hand, or I hope also that you're not constantly around water. The reality is you spend your time where you spend your time, and you better hope that your watch can actually handle the things that you spend your time on. Things like 100-meter water resistance, right? Like that matters for more people, certain people, and less for others. If you have a mismatch between your lifestyle and the watch, there will be some dissonance there. And with that equals potentially some level of regret. All right, the last one here, this was a little bit more subjective and a little bit odder, but I think it does make sense for me at least. The type of watch that you won't regret is one that is actually connected to something meaningful in your life. I talk to a lot of collectors out there, and one of the things that they say is that they, try to go after the watches that everyone else goes after at first, right? The Speedmasters and the Calatravas. However, the ones that really stick in their collection, the ones they regret letting go of, are the ones that actually meant something in relation to their life. If there was a watch that maybe was present for your son's birth, your wedding, and one of the most high-achieving moments you've ever been through, imagine selling that watch one day. That just hurts to even think about to some extent. I don't even care what watch it is. It could be a Timex Ironman, or it could be a, Rolex Daytona. It doesn't matter. The reality is, it stuck with you and was present with you in those very, very momentous areas of your life. Or the watch that was gifted to you, right? And it was gifted to you by a special person that you absolutely love. In a scenario like that, you probably won't regret owning that watch. Maybe you won't wear it all the time, but the fact is that it's super connected to something way more meaningful than just metal and, I don't know, rubber. These are just things, the memories, the people, all that stuff is way more important. So I'll put more significance towards that, then connect the watch to it, than the other way around. So that was a lot there, but hopefully that made sense. 5 types of watches you won't regret owning. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Mark Kwok. I'll see you on the next one.